My son is an ungrateful person, selfish, cold-blooded, and heartless. I left home and won the custody of my son, and worked hard to send him to college. But he slapped his butt and refused to take credit for his ex-husband's work, and he didn't look back even when my corpse stank. After reborn and taking the college entrance examination, my son was admitted to a key university. He immediately ran to his ex-husband's house to announce the good news, but I was seriously ill in bed with no one to take care of me. Before I died, I called him and told him that I was going to die, and your death had nothing to do with me. I lived a hard life with you for 3 years and you deserve to die. The neighborhood committee contacted my son Joe June on the day of the funeral, and asked him if he still wanted to go to college. If you don't come, I will report your situation to your school. Only then did my son come reluctantly and take my urn. The neighbor's elder sister was so angry that she pointed at him and scolded him, saying that your mother had been setting up a stall day and night for you to study for 3 years, and you are an ungrateful person. My son argued unconvincedly. My dad is a big businessman, my stepmother is a senior executive, and my grandma loves me so much, I want him to take care of me. He was exhausted to death because of his own fault. My soul was twisted in the air with anger, and I shouted at him loudly, "You bastard, you are blind and blind. If they really loved you, they would plot against me and take away your custody." But my son ignored them and walked away impatiently with the urn in his arms. In fact, even if I were alive, he would never take my words seriously. I watched him leave the community and looked around. He threw the urn into the trash can and clapped his hands, as if throwing away an unlucky dirty thing. Now no one cares about me. My brothers are online to play games, and he can't wait to take out his mobile phone to open King of Glory. At this moment I am more sad than the death of my heart, and I can't cry. I don't know what I'm still expecting, I just keep watching him play one after another. Until it gets dark, until his brows furrow and his face turns pale. I thought he finally realized that he really didn't have a mother anymore. But he patted his stomach and grumbled in dissatisfaction. Why hasn't Grandma called me yet? I'm starving. I was completely heartbroken, and the mother's love disappeared from me. I slowly calmed down. In fact, I knew that my son had been dissatisfied with me for a long time. In the second year of high school, he clamored to buy a skin in the King of Glory. I didn't agree to the price of more than 800 yuan, and suddenly he went crazy and pushed and hit me, saying that it was you. If I were with my father, he could buy the skin as he pleased. What are you doing if you don't have money? He pushed me and hit me on the corner of the table and bled, but he ran away without looking back. I covered my wound and looked for him all night. The next day he wore new clothes and new shoes, and proudly showed off to me that my ex-husband bought him 10 skins. Earlier, after the high school entrance examination, he did not reach the score line of the key high school. I suggested that he repeat a year. I would not repeat it if I accompanied him. Unable to lose face with this person, he went to find his ex-husband again. The ex-husband agreed readily and sent him to a high school with a bad reputation. The son was very proud and came back to show off to me, saying that only his father could solve his problems. But he didn't think about it without me. Later, I worked hard to focus on his studies for 3 years in high school. With his rubbish school and weak foundation, he couldn't even touch the line of junior college. How could he be admitted to a key university? But my efforts will never be as good as the small favors of my ex-husband's family. My son always felt that I was the one who prevented him from living a happy and wealthy life. His efforts were abandoned like tourmaline, and he was unwilling to live a short life. Because of the death of an unfilial son, I thought I would be reincarnated with resentment, but I suddenly heard my son's angry roar. You need to take care of your own affairs, don't take me with you, poor bastard. I moved my stiff hands and feet, and the sharp ceramic fragments on the floor pierced my soles. I stared at my son blankly, his face full of oil and acne during adolescence, and slowly realized that I was reborn as my son. After the high school entrance examination, I found that Zhou Liang had cheated on me and was determined to divorce. That day, God wanted to give me a chance to choose again. My palms instantly warmed up and my heart beat violently. I tried my best to suppress my excitement and said lightly that I didn't have a job. The court will not award you to me without income. Zhou Liang was shocked. Jiang Ningyi, what do you mean, didn't you find a job that pays 10,000 yuan a month? I sneered in my heart, thinking of my previous life. I occasionally heard gossip about my colleagues in the company, and manager Dong was really black-hearted. Help the original wife find a job and help her fight for custody, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, kicking out all the people who got in the way. Then she brought her daughter to marry him. Live a clean and refreshing life, so awesome. Then I realized that Dong Jia was the company's human resources manager, and I was tricked by him. For the sake of livelihood, I gritted my teeth and endured the humiliation and didn't confront him. But Dong Jia broke the bridge after crossing the river for a few days, saying that my work ability and position did not match. Fired me. People who didn't know the truth thought I was a relative and applauded. At that moment, I had no way to defend myself and was completely desperate. Now my son rushed to me ferociously, baring his teeth and claws to scratch me. No matter how many tricks you use, I won't follow you. Bullshit. 10,000 a month. Which family pays such a high salary for a nanny? I smiled and felt cold in my heart, under the indoctrination of my mother-in-law and Joey Yang to my son since childhood. I, as a mother, am the most useless and worthless person in the family, just a live-in nanny worth 3,000 yuan. I grabbed her hand and shook it gently, smiling and saying, "Your father is joking. He and your Aunt Dong are well off financially, so you and his mother can rest assured." The son was stunned. "Your Aunt Dong is also a highly qualified person. She will definitely treat you like her own daughter." My son held his head high and agreed with him. "But Aunt Dong and I get along very well. She understands me very well. She likes that I understand your game of life. She likes to give you skins and praise you for your good playing skills. Do you have a bright future?" I was too lazy to argue, but Zhou Liang was flustered and walked around with his hands on his waist in annoyance. "Aunt Jiangning, didn't you say that when the Dong family has another child, the relationship between siblings will be complicated, and it will be difficult to get along with them? What do you mean now? You are still dreaming of getting rid of me and my son and living a new life of your own? Or even kicking me out of the house? I sincerely apologize. I was narrow-minded before. I'm sorry, I believe you will feel hurt. Xiaojun, the Dong family can also treat everyone equally." Zhou Liang choked, and my son had an expression on his face that said, "You've been sensible." I smiled faintly, wrote a few words, and added a few clauses to the divorce agreement. "Zhou Liang, I have all the evidence of your infidelity with the Dong family. I don't want the house or the car. I just want 800,000 cash. I don't have time to argue with them. I just want to get what I can as soon as possible, and the house won't be worth much in a few years." Zhou Liang was caught off guard by my decisiveness, and he wanted to use his son to control me. I just said lightly, "Don't you claim to love your son the most, but you still have to argue with me over a mere property? This money is what he bet on me. I want to see how he is going to maintain his false face of elegance in front of my son." The son interrupted nonchalantly, "Dad, give it to him. You and Aunt Dong can make money anyway, but add a clause to the agreement that he is not allowed to visit. Let's just consider it as spending money to buy peace and quiet." Zhou Liang thought of something, smiled grimly, and threatened Aunt Jiangning. "I know you hate me and want to be angry with me. I can pay this money, just don't regret it." I rolled my eyes, directly pulled the document and signed my name. Zhou Liang subconsciously tried to grab my pen. I sighed at my son. "Junjun, it seems you dad doesn't care that much about you." The son's face changed. He stood up and asked, "Dad, what do you mean let him go quickly?" Zhou Liang frowned and was still hesitating. "I know he is reluctant to part with the money. After all, this is all the savings in our family's account. Don't blame me for using your sweetheart as a scapegoat." Speaking of my job, I seem to have heard that it was introduced by a man named Dong. I spoke very slowly, word by word. A housewife with no work experience got the offer for the head of the design department of his group. I have to go to the boss to ask. Zhou Liang's face changed immediately and interrupted. "Okay, let me think about it for a few days." I sneered, "Why do you have to ask people for their opinions before you get married? I won't be in this condition in a few days." After I said this, Zhou Liang was of course embarrassed to call the Dong family. The player had a son who was helping his teammates. He still agreed to my conditions. I wanted to pressure him. I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to handle the formalities, but unexpectedly the Dong family called and said that I had seen blood. The father and son no longer cared about me and left in a hurry. Their backs looked a little embarrassed. I was in a hurry, but not because I didn't have a son. The Dong family wanted to do the same as in the previous life and let me take my son away so that they could live a happy life as a family of 4. But it was impossible. As soon as they left, I packed up and moved out of the house, and started my new life without stopping. In fact, at the moment of rebirth, I had already thought of a career plan. In my previous life, because of Dongjia, I went to the workplace. I was in my 30s and had no work experience. I couldn't compete with those young people. I was so weak that I was laughed at and fired. Then I went to set up a stall. A few years later, many college students came out to grab their jobs. They were humble, and the things they sold were fashionable, delicious, and sweet. At that time, I was able to make money in the cracks by working hard. I went there earlier than them, stayed up later than them, and ran. I had to go from one stall to another to sell all the food for the day and come back, and I also had to accompany my son to review his homework, so my health deteriorated so quickly. Now I know myself and know how to use my advantages. If I go to work in the housekeeping ant circle, I am still young and graduated from a key university. Secondly, I can take care of children and do housework, and I am hardworking. My shortcomings will immediately become advantages. I believe I can make a name for myself in this industry. The last time I was in the company, I heard that the general manager He Yanling was a single father with a daughter who was about to go to high school. I advertised in the company and asked everyone to recommend a reliable senior housekeeper who could take care of their lives and tutor the children's homework. The salary offered was also considerable. As long as I could pass his interview, the monthly salary could be 50,000. After being fired, I was also very tempted and wanted to give it a try. Unfortunately, when my son heard that I was going to be a nanny, he committed suicide at home, saying that I was embarrassing and that I hadn't touched a textbook for many years, so how could I be qualified to tutor high school students? But now these are not a problem. I confidently called He Yellen, claiming to be someone from his company, and asked me to come to him. He asked me to introduce myself. I got 652 points in the college entrance examination that year. I can guarantee that the current college entrance examination paper will not be lower than this score. I talked freely, but I couldn't help feeling sour in my heart. In those days, I was not only an excellent student, but also had a class flower-level appearance after entering university. Zhou Liang and I went from school uniforms to wedding dresses. I have been a housewife for more than 10 years. I am old and fat, and I have long lost my former glory. After my son's college entrance examination, I also silently took out the test paper and took the test at home. I actually got 680 points. Every point was poured out with my deep love for my son, but he was as angry as tourmaline. As for the tutoring style, I would rather take the test in person. I am not stage frightened at all about this. My son, no matter how naughty their children are, I can still send them to a prestigious university. I do not believe there are any students that I cannot bring up. Mr. He asked me to share my experience in housekeeping. I smiled bitterly. Does being a live-in nanny for 16 years count? My specialties are cooking with one hand while holding the baby, eating with one hand while holding the baby, and mopping the floor with one hand. I can also skillfully make milk and change diapers in my sleep. If necessary, I can stay up all night to take care of sick and noisy babies. Mr. He was amused by me. Ms. Zhang is very humorous and you can tell that she is really hardworking. I laughed along with her and laughed until tears came out. Of course, Mr. He should not underestimate women who have come out of the domestic battlefield. Yanling had a good initial impression of me, so she asked me to meet and discuss in detail, but even though we had a great conversation, he said he needed to reconsider it. I knew that I definitely did not meet all his requirements. In the end, he politely declined. I have a daughter who is about to enter the first year of high school. If you have a nutritionist to manage her health, the family I want to be more competitive with these certificates of government services. I suddenly felt hopeful. I really hope that the time will come and I will be given another chance. After hanging up the phone, I signed up for massage classes and childcare classes without stopping. I even had to go to work. In addition, I signed up for fitness classes and yoga classes. I also signed up for private lessons at 500 yuan an hour without hesitation. Now I have learned to invest in myself. When I have reached that stage in my life, I know that it is better to rely on myself than on anyone else. What's more, I am a housewife now. I am spending Zhou Liang's money. It would be a waste if I don't spend it. Zhou Liang soon couldn't stand it anymore and called me to go back for a divorce. As soon as I got home, I knew there would be a fierce fight today. My mother-in-law, who has been active in the square dance team in the community, was rarely at home. When she saw me come back, she started throwing things and complaining. She was going on strike for a little thing. Xiaojun and I didn't have to eat, and my son said nonchalantly that he didn't want to do it. Grandma, we will do it these days. The takeout is delicious, especially the fried chicken. My mother-in-law choked and her face was crooked. I looked at my son's pimple-covered face, and there was no ripple in my heart. The sink at home smelled bad, and the trash can was full of medicine overflowing. I turned a blind eye, wiped the gray stain on the stool, sat down and teased my mother. You should save your energy to train your new daughter-in-law. I have cooked for you for more than 10 years, and you didn't let her go on the day of divorce. My mother-in-law was so angry that she threw away the rag, pointed at me and cursed. Jiang Ningyi, no wonder Xiaojun doesn't want to argue with you. It's all negative energy. I said lightly, I didn't want custody. Zhou Liang cheated, and I took my son away to let him and the mistress live a carefree life? I'm not that stupid. Seeing that my mother-in-law was so angry that her face turned blue, I continued to say that I left Xiaojun to disgust him. I would like to say you for a long time, but you didn't make any sense. In the end, she beat her chest and stamped her feet and cursed. You're committing a sin. This is venting your anger. Our Xiaojun is innocent. Aren't you afraid that he will not recognize you in the future, and will not provide for your old age? He can even throw away my urn. What does it mean if he doesn't recognize me and don't provide for my old age? My heart was cold and I fought back motionlessly. Mom, thank you for slandering and belittling me in front of him for so many years. You are all good people and I am the only bad person. Now it's as you wish. I have decided to be a lonely person. I will give this grandson away for free. Then I shouted towards the bedroom. Didn't Zhou Liang call me back for a divorce? What's the point of hiding? After a long time, the tightly closed door of the room slowly opened. Zhou Liang helped Dong Jia, who was not pregnant yet, out. The mother-in-law hurried to meet him, muttering, Oh, be careful about this. My dear grandson must not have any accidents again. The son couldn't stand the cautious look of his mother-in-law, and threw his phone in dissatisfaction. It's not like he has no milk. Besides, the grandson is just this big. Who knows if it's a boy or a girl? The Dong family smiled lightly. She said coquettishly, Xiaojun, Auntie went to Hong Kong for a blood test and it's a boy. Zhou Liang scolded, Who told you to talk to Aunt Dong like that? Don't run around at home in the future. The mother-in-law immediately agreed. Xiaojun, you must take good care of your little brother. Quickly pick up the things here. The son kicked the coffee table hard, turned and left. Whoever wants to pick up can pick it up. Then went into the room and slammed the door. Zhou Liang's face flushed with anger, and a hint of disappointment flashed in his eyes. The mother-in-law hurried to please the Dong family. He is still a child. I will say a few words to him later. He just can't accept it all at once. You have a good relationship. He will understand. Dong Jia nodded with red eyes and sat down aggrieved. But I was the only one who saw the extremely sinister glance at Dong Jia's belly when my son turned around. In the previous life, I took my son away before Dong Jia could find out whether it was a boy or a girl, because I was afraid that he would see his father and grandmother, with this look on their faces with a new love. I know my son has always been self-righteous. He is very selfish and self-centered. He definitely can't accept another younger brother competing for his favor. When we divorced, I took into consideration that he was still young and didn't have the heart to burst his beautiful dream. After all, I was the one to take care of it. There were all kinds of troubles at home. In her eyes, the mother-in-law was a beautiful, chic and avant-garde grandmother, who could also perform with the elderly square dance troupe. My father was elegant, good-tempered and could make money. He would respond to her requests. Now, if we want to be embarrassed, everyone should be embarrassed together. Why should I be the only one to bear all the grievances in blood and tears? I've seen enough of it. I looked at Zhou Liang leisurely and asked leisurely. The property issue has been settled last time. It's better to do it today than to wait for another day. Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau now. Dong Jia said lightly beside me. Sister-in-law, how can a couple divorce without talking about the children but the property? I raised my eyebrows and looked at Zhou Liang and my son. I thought everyone had reached a consensus on this issue. What does Miss Dong mean? Dong Jia laughed dryly a few times and said against her will, of course I want to. Aunt and Liang were reluctant to let Xiao Jun stay. But as a woman, she must need the child with her in her heart. I really didn't expect my sister-in-law to be so relieved. Reassurance is a threat to me. If I don't take my son away, she will treat me harshly. I waved my hand nonchalantly. You have a daughter with you, and you are not an inexperienced girl. Of course I am relieved to hand the child to you. Dong Jia looked at Zhou Liang in surprise. Zhou Liang shook his head helplessly at her. I understood. Today Dong Jia didn't believe me and really didn't want custody, so she came here to test me. This is my son coming out to pour water. Although he pretended to be real, I know that he must have pricked up his ears to listen to our negotiation. Dong Jia glanced at him, looked at me meaningfully and said, sister-in-law, we are both divorced and raising children. Excuse me for being frank, his child's biological mother is better. It was also very hard for me to take care of my daughter back then, but I still gritted my teeth and persevered. I'm not boasting about anything, was the father just a little careless after all? Xiao Jun was raised by you since he was a child. You really couldn't bear to do that? Before I could say anything my son came over angrily, pointing his finger at Dong Jia and Dong Yi. Why do you have to drive me out? Didn't you say you liked me and wanted to be my mother? Dong Jia looked constipated. His original intention was to instigate the relationship between me and my son and test my bottom line. But he didn't know that these words violated his son's interests. Because his son didn't live a happy and wealthy life with his father, he even wanted to grind me, his biological mother, to ashes, let alone the Dong family. Sure enough, my son yelled even more fiercely. You brought your daughter in to enjoy the good life, but you want to drive me out to suffer. What are you thinking? If you do this again, I won't help you. He stuck his neck out, as if he had caught a big handle on the Dong family, but I almost laughed out loud. My silly son, the Dong family used to coax and support you because they were divorced and had a child. How could they not? I'm so angry I can't bear it anymore, but I'm so angry I can't bear it anymore. 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 I'm so angry. Seeing her look of frustration, I felt so happy. Now it's your turn to be helpless and furious, full of negative energy. The Dong family was still unwilling. The duck that was talking nonsense flew away. They said unwillingly that she was a full-time wife and didn't make a penny. Why should she get so much? We should support her well with our 3 children in the future. Then she can live a carefree life. I just looked at Zhou Liang and smiled faintly. He looked ugly and pulled Dong Jia aside to explain. Dong Jia walked up to me aggressively and asked, why do you still want to sue me? I'm a veteran of the company. At most, I didn't do a strict job. I will also sue you for falsifying your resume. I will inform you in the personnel circle then. Don't even think about finding a job in the future. At that time, the job was introduced to me by my sister-in-law. They had been plotting against me for a long time. I didn't write any resume from beginning to end. The Dong family just wanted to bully me because I had no connections and no social experience. They couldn't intimidate me. I took out my mobile phone slowly. Then I have to talk to Mr. He about the ins and outs of my work. A mistress is so generous as to help the original wife through the back door. Mr. He should reward such subordinates well. Seeing the sneer on Dong Jia's lips, he looked like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. I slowly reported He Yinling's mobile phone number. His face finally changed and he yelled, enough, I'm too lazy to argue with you. I was too lazy to argue with him. I endured it all the way until I got the red book. Then I went over and said word by word to Dong Jia, you must cherish your position as the Human Resources Director of the He Group. He was so angry that his lips trembled and his eyes glared at me angrily. I smiled softly and walked away. My son didn't even look at me. The family gathered together harmoniously. Very good. Since the Dong family is good at winning people's hearts, I want to see what happens between my good-for-nothing son and the scheming him. Who is better? After the divorce, I returned to the apartment, took a nice bath, hid in the soft big bed, rolled over and over several times and almost screamed. This is life. After that, I rushed to training and fitness every day. I was energetic and refreshed. The wind I smelled on the road was sweet. With this 800,000 cash, it is enough for me to become excellent and embark on the road of gold medal housekeeper. Who said that being an ant cannot be successful? It's embarrassing, but I want to become bigger and stronger to show them. Seeing the young, tall and strong personal fitness coach, my long-lost hormones were instantly aroused. When measuring the physical data, I was deeply guilty for my seriously ill body. For so many years, I have never treated myself well. In just 1 week, because of the large base, I lost 15 pounds. I have been at the bottom of my life for a long time. Every change makes people see it. Progress and hope are like silence, old trees grow new buds. I have found back the excitement when I was admitted to the university, the ambition of graduating soon. I want to greet my first interview in the best condition and with the strongest strength in just 2 months. I not only got the nutritionist and housekeeping certificates, but also the fitness and body shaping effects are very good. The most intuitive thing is, my personal trainer looks at me with fiery eyes. I have changed my fitness clothes by 4 sizes in these 2 months. The gym management is going to expand its scale and discuss with me, wanting to use my personal image to advertise the company. Miss Zhang's change is really huge. It just fits the theme of our issue, the desperate chef transformation season. We want to use your photos and videos for publicity, and we also hope that you can cooperate with us to shoot some commercials. I smiled faintly. The person in charge of 50,000 was surprised. He looked at me strangely, as if he didn't expect me to mention the remuneration. He said embarrassedly that the company really didn't have the funds to arrange. How about I talk to your coach and give you 30 hours of private lessons? I'm sorry, the price is already very low, I said without any room for negotiation. Seeing that I was about to leave, the person in charge hurriedly stopped me and said to talk to Miss Xiaojiang again. I would give you 50 hours just for Coach Su's sake. I pushed him away, my face turned serious, and said coldly that it would be meaningless if you said that. Do you think I have never seen a man? There is indeed no shortage of middle-class wives in this gym who come to chat with coaches and students, but I don't have the leisure time. I will stay away from men all my life. After all, I am a woman who doesn't even want a son. He was stunned and knew that I really didn't mean that, so he quickly apologized to me. A few days later 50,000 yuan was transferred to my account, but I didn't expect that the gym's performance would soar after the advertisement was released, and He Yanlin even became a customer here. We met in the lounge area, and he looked me up and down with admiration in his eyes. When I saw the advertisement I thought I looked like you, but I didn't expect it to be true. I smiled generously and reported to him the results of my examination. He nodded in approval. Okay, I will ask you to come for an interview when school starts. Coincidentally, he also chose Coach Su. As we met more often, we became more familiar with each other. I also spared no effort to improve my impression of this future employer, and tried to add more impression points. He Yanling is the best springboard for my future housekeeping career. I must get this high-paying job. Back and forth. I also knew about He Yanling's family situation. She and her ex-wife were both career-oriented. Since her ex-wife went to Hong Kong to join a branch company, the two of them have been apart for a long time, and their relationship has become distant. Later, after she had established herself there, she wanted to settle down in Hong Kong, but He Yanling was reluctant to give up her career here. The two of them struggled for several years and finally divorced this year. The child belongs to her. He Yanling smiled and said that if she was like Miss Zhang and was willing to pay some attention to her family, we would not have come to this point. I smiled bitterly and said that if my ex-husband had not made any mistakes in principle, I would be willing to suffer a little and be tired. He Yanling couldn't help laughing. It seems that good men and good women are all in other people's homes. This topic is a bit ambiguous if we continue. I made a joke without leaving a trace. Haha, divorced men and women are used to saying that I was not wrong, it was the other party's problem. Raising my eyebrows, I said seriously that Mr. He's marriage was due to different concepts and their fate. There was no right or wrong. If I were more independent and strong, I would not be bullied like this. Anyway, let's look forward to the future. We talked very deeply that day, and He Yanlin's eyes looked at me more and more deeply. Maybe the coach asked me privately that He Yanlin was close to me and paid a lot of attention to me. Did he want to pursue me? I laughed incredibly. He Yanlin, who had seen all kinds of things and was an elite egoist, had too many choices. Rather than saying that he had a good impression of me, it would be better to say that he was exploring me to see if I had the heart of a superior. I know that this kind of man is very strict in evaluating his close subordinates. I'll drink 10 bottles, even melatonin wouldn't have such ambition, not to mention that I've died once. I won't have any extravagant expectations for men anymore. I just want to live a free and easy life. Just when my life was getting better step by step, I didn't expect that trouble would still find me. That day when I went downstairs with Coach Su, my ex-mother-in-law Chen Farong grabbed my hair. The commercial street was crowded with people, and it was the time when the flow of people was the most turbulent after get off work. He shouted at Jiang Ningyi, "No wonder you don't want children. You're using Liang's wallet to support a gigolo. You slut." I pushed him away and hit back at Aunt Chun without any hesitation. "Your son cheated on me and we're divorced. You're meddling too much." The onlookers immediately pointed fingers, which made Chen Farong very embarrassed. She rolled her eyes, winked at my son and said loudly, "I brought Xiaojun to see you. How can you be a mother? Even if you are divorced, you can't ignore your son." I said coldly, "How can I not care about you? Don't I pay you the child support on time every month?" Chen Farong beat her chest and stamped her feet, shouting like a shrew. "What can that little money do? You must come home once a week to accompany the child. You have time to hook up with men, so can't you care about your son?" The old lady's words immediately won the sympathy of the people around her. She became more excited, spitting and telling the people around me how selfish I was, how I abandoned my family and children, and how I was a flirt. Coach Su couldn't stand it anymore, so he grabbed the old lady and said, "Apologize to me or I will sue you for defamation." Looking at his son who had been lowering his head, every word was heart-wrenching. "Aunt Chun, I haven't seen you for a few days. How come you have become like a shrew? Don't forget, you are the self-proclaimed most avant-garde and free-spirited grandmother, and you are also the lead dancer of the song and dance troupe. Don't do such an uncultured thing. How could a person like my son who is extremely selfish and cares about face help his grandmother to act and win everyone's sympathy?" He had an ugly face, and was about to leave by pulling Chun Filong. "Why did grandma come to see his face? He doesn't care about me now, but he will get old one day." Then he was not convinced and provoked me. "Go, what are you proud of? I won't recognize you when you grow up. You are old and sick. And fall on the bed. I will put you on the oxygen tube." The crowd booed. The Situation turned around in an instant. Chan Feilong's mouth was crooked with anger, and he almost died. I came up, I forced to hold back my smile. My silly son must not have seen that his grandmother looked much older and haggard in just a few days. If she couldn't bear it anymore, how could she have the audacity to chase me and ask me to go back to take care of my son? Looking at my son's firm steps away, my eyes were fixed on his back for a long time. Son, you must always be the same. Then I apologized to the coach. He looked at me with a constipated face and pointed to your son. I nodded calmly. Dear, he was puzzled and speechless. I smiled faintly and said goodbye to him. It's nothing. After experiencing it once, I know deeply that even though family love is selfless, you can't deny that there is no shortage of cruel mothers and ungrateful sons in this world. If I hadn't until the end, I really didn't know that the son whom I raised with great difficulty and hand in hand, actually hated me so much. Every time he hurt my heart in the past, I would comfort myself that he was still young and ignorant, and I would change if I taught him more. However, no matter how much I crushed and mashed everything I put into his mouth, he still couldn't see the efforts of others and couldn't learn to be grateful. He inherited the cold-bloodedness and selfishness in the bones of the Zhou family, and he was even more rampant and didn't even bother to pretend. I thought they would stop there, but first He Yanling asked me indirectly whether the previous marriage relationship was handled properly, and if I had any difficulties I could ask him for help. My heart sank, and I instantly thought that he must have heard some rumors. Then it was Zhou Liang. The next day he found my training class. When he saw me, he looked at me in doubt at first. You are really you. After he was sure, his eyes were dull and he stared at me straight. That disgusting look lingered on me, emitting surprise. I gently brushed away the non-existent dust and sneered. He then retracted his gaze and said sarcastically, no wonder you don't want a son. Have you been hooking up with men outside for a long time? You have paranoia. Have you been to the psychiatric department? I sneered. He said sourly, you are still very beautiful when you lose weight. You even hooked up with Mr. He. But he doesn't like an old woman like you. There are so many women in the company who like her. I am sure that it was her who talked behind He Yanling's back. I pulled her to I was standing in the corner. Bishing asked Zhou Liang, what do you want to do? Why are you ruining your business? You throw your son to me and live your life to the fullest? No way. I took a deep breath and didn't want to waste my emotions on such a person. Tell me, you take turns to find me, what do you want me to do? Zhou Liang looked triumphant and said arrogantly, come home with me. I have something to discuss with you. You treat divorce as a matter of course, so why should I go home with you? I was so angry that I laughed. Zhou Liang was well prepared. He took out his mobile phone and showed me a video. A woman screamed sharply and piercingly in the screen. Get out, you bastard, die outside and don't come back. My pupils shrank and I snatched the phone. The video showed the Zhou family's living room, which was in a mess at this time, and the child was crying heartbreakingly on the sofa. The obese woman didn't care and grabbed the man's hair, pushing him out the door while yelling and cursing, just like a mad woman. The man begged his wife for mercy in a good temper, saying, Wife, I was wrong. Let me see if the child is okay. He is so sad from crying. Don't come back. You don't have to care about us even if we die. I couldn't stand it anymore. I trembled all over and my hands and feet were cold. When did you install surveillance at home? I yelled. Zhou Liang said honestly, Aunt Jiangning, I have too many videos of you going crazy, collapsing and being ugly. Do you think he will still like you if I send these videos to Mr. He? I closed my eyes tightly and then, I want to see how disgusting you can be. I got into Zhou Liang's car. I said nothing and looked out the window silently. I thought that I had lived my life again and had forgotten many things and didn't care about them anymore. But when I saw the blood and tears of the past, I couldn't stop trembling. I was so depressed that I couldn't look directly at it. Others who watched the video would only think that this woman was rude, unkempt, cold-blooded and didn't care about her children. She was unreasonable and had no quality. But they didn't know that my son had pneumonia when he was 5 years old. My mother-in-law helped take care of him for a day, and then found an excuse to go out dancing. Zhou Liang was busy with business. I called him dozens of times a day but no one answered. I took care of my son who kept coughing day and night alone. I went to the hospital to beg for help humbly, and was scolded by doctors and nurses. I couldn't even take a nap at night. I was always worried that my son would cough and pass out. On the 4th day, Zhou Liang finally came back, my emotions collapsed and exploded. And then the scene in the video appeared, but this damn bastard, it turned out that I had installed surveillance a long time ago, living in dire straits, but he silently peeped, pretending not to know, secretly hiding my miserable video, and used it as a weapon to threaten me today, this wolf-hearted thing. He is more than just guilty of cheating. I was so angry that my whole body was shaking and I couldn't stop twitching, but Zhou Liang suddenly touched my thigh, and his greasy and hypocritical voice came from the car. Wife, come back. After you left, I realized that this beauty is really not good. I suppressed my nausea and asked, what about Dong Jia? She pinched my leg hard. Anyway, the baby is still young. And she is old and the fetus is unstable. We haven't got the marriage certificate yet. I couldn't bear it anymore and slapped her hard. When the scum arrived at the Zhou family, a smell of tenderness and stinky smell hit me as soon as I walked through the door. My son and a girl of the same age were playing King of Glory in a duo. The girl kept holding her son's stinky feet and said, Brother Wang, you are so awesome. You must take me with you when you play in the future. I am rushing to the national server. Isn't it awesome? When Chen Feilong saw me coming, he deliberately said loudly that Xiaojun and Xiaoxing got along really well, just like real siblings. Dong Jia was eating melon seeds on the sofa, urging Chen Feilong, Mom, this is too messy. I can't put my feet down. She snorted, threw away the rag, sat down and ordered, Aunt Jiangning, you have to come to our house once a week to clean and prepare a week's worth of food, and then Xiaojun won't have to pay child support. You are out, Dong Jia said with a smile. I heard that my sister wants to apply for Mr. He's nanny. He started looking for someone half a year ago. But no one is good enough. You can't just live off the fat of the land. The son put down his phone, his face full of disgust. You are really hopeless. I thought you would change after the divorce, but you still went to be a nanny. Zhou Liang was embarrassed by me on the road and deliberately provoked me. Just think of it as doing something for the son. We don't ask for much. Just come once a week is fine. It suddenly dawned on me. It turns out that the family just wants to continue to do it for free, to exploit my labor. Chan Feirong said reluctantly. You only come 4 times a month. 1,000 yuan is not a loss. Yes, compared to the previous 24 hours a day standby, taking care of the baby, cooking and doing housework all at the same time, this 1,000 yuan is indeed a bargain for me. I did not refute, but pretended to be puzzled and asked, can't you hire a nanny for 3,000 yuan? Chan Feilong avoided his eyes, but his son said carelessly, we have changed 7 or 8 nannies. They are not good at doing things and don't do this or that. I really don't know what's so great about a nanny. I suppressed my anger and asked Zhou Jun, you asked your mother to come back as a nanny to serve your father and stepmother's family. Have you ever thought about your mother's feelings? She said nonchalantly, you are going to be a nanny anyway, so just do it at home. At least no one will laugh at you. Don't go out and embarrass yourself. I touched my hair. My cold-blooded and selfish son really never lets me down. I sighed. But you can't afford me now. When you are willing to pay 50,000 a month, I will definitely come back. The Dong family laughed at me for not knowing my own limitations, but my son stared at me and said, you are worth so much. Zhou Liang threatened that even if you were hired, you wouldn't be able to do it. I was inclined to wait and see. I won't say any more nonsense and turned around to leave. Not only is the house dirty, but the people are also dirty. Look, there are a lot of scumbags. Sooner or later, the family war will break out, and I decided not to be soft-hearted. Knowing that Zhou Liang has saved a lot of surveillance videos, I decided to take the initiative to ask Mr. He out for a good talk, but it was after the formal interview. I must let him see my strength first, and then we can weigh the pros and cons. There were a total of 10 ants interviewed that day, including many young and beautiful ones, and even some as an overseas student who can speak 5 languages. I am really glad that I made the decisive choice to enter this industry. The interview process was as smooth as I expected. Those who are younger and prettier than me are not as neat and tiring as me, and are not afraid of dirt or tiredness. Those who are older than me do not have my education and knowledge. In addition, I have no worries and no burdens. I can devote myself to my work and my cooperation is higher than anyone else. Yanling obviously has an opinion. I also give him tutoring. He Tian said frankly that what I say is more understandable, interesting and fun than what their teachers say. Dad should just call him Ant. He is so good at every subject and can do the work of several people. He Yanling did not reply on the spot, but told us to go back and wait for news. We met at the gym the next day. I asked him to have a meal together after the meal. During the meal, I specially ordered after drinking a bottle of red wine. I took a deep breath and asked him if he had seen some of my videos. The general manager did send me some, but I wanted to hear your opinion. I first expressed my gratitude to him. After all, no employer would hire a live-in housekeeper who was emotionally unstable, prone to collapse and irritability. I drank another glass of wine and then tried to use an objective attitude to recount my blood and tears history in the Zhou family over the past decade. I loved beauty and selfishness, liked to win over my son with small favors, belittled my mother-in-law, hypocritically evaded responsibility, liked to show off my ability to suppress my wife's husband, was chauvinistic since childhood, selfish and looked down on his mother's son. After more than 10 years of marriage, I lived like a scarred trapped beast, only knowing how to roar in competence. Roaring and collapsing, I wiped away my tears and smiled at He Yanling. Although I looked pitiful and funny, I was really terrible in the past and there was no way to escape. He Yanlin looked at me with a deep and profound gaze, silently handed me his handkerchief, and replaced the wine with tea. I knew that this was the gentlemanly behavior he had been taught, but at least he gave me the opportunity to appeal. The sadness and exhaustion of the years made me cry. I cried for a full 10 minutes before I could have a normal conversation. I didn't know whether He Yanlin would accept and understand my words in the end. Being forced to this point by them, I would not let the Dong family have an easy time, so I gathered my mood, gritted my teeth and said sternly, Mr. He, I know that being a mistress is not the standard for companies to measure employees now, but the Dong family first. They used their power for personal gain and now they can't stand my good, so they violated my privacy and tried to force me to go back and be their nanny. Mr. He can do without me, but please think carefully about the character of this Dong family member. I took a deep breath. In addition to the offer, I also took out the chat records of the Dong family and Zhou Liang's affair. It involved the Dong family bribing the head of the purchasing department of the He Group to please Zhou Liang and illegally using the products represented by Zhou Liang. This is the price list of the source product supplier. Zhou Liang is a third-level distributor of OEM. With this operation of the Dong family, Mr. He has spent at least 3 million more in the past year. He Yanlin took the information and took a look at it, then gently put it down. Tapping the table with his fingers, he suddenly asked Zhang Ningyi, "Did you recommend yourself to me just for this moment?" I looked at him in disbelief, and it took me a long time to react. He Yanling thought I approached him with a purpose to avenge my ex-husband and the mistress. I clenched my fists and a surge of anger came up. Mr. He, I understand your misunderstanding of me, but what I want to say is that first of all I accept and respect my profession. It is my life plan after careful consideration, and I have also paid sweat and effort for it. Secondly, the grievances between Zhou Liang and the Dong family ended with me at the moment of divorce. If they hadn't forced me like this, you wouldn't hear what I said today. He Yanling looked at me for a long time and suddenly laughed. Even though I lose hundreds of dollars every year, Wan, I choked. Every time He Yinling asked a question, it was unconventional and unexpected. Every reaction made me feel emotional. I didn't know which way to lean. I closed my eyes and replied weakly, I won't say I love someone. I'm just a woman who knows how to protect my own rights, not a messenger of justice. Zhou Liang and others don't bother me, so why should I make enemies for myself? After all, cutting off someone's financial resources is like killing their parents. Besides, the He Group loses millions every year. It's due to its own internal management negligence, and He Yinling's improper use of people. I said expressionlessly, so Mr. He doesn't need to thank me now. He Yinling looked at me and suddenly laughed. Suddenly, she easily reached out and flicked my forehead. How could she be really angry? Although he looked helpless, it was both funny and sad. But this action still made me feel uncomfortable. I moved my body uncomfortably and grinned expressionlessly. As long as Mr. He doesn't misunderstand me, it's fine. He Yinlin laughed out loud and made concessions. Okay, I get it. The meal ended with my uneasiness, but I was not discouraged because I had already prepared for the worst. That night I began to carefully prepare my resume and sent it to major well-known housekeeping companies. I would not put my hopes on only one person. He Yinling's revenge came quickly and fiercely. First, Dong Jia was fired and received a letter from the company's lawyer, asking him to compensate for the losses caused by abusing his power for personal gain during his tenure. Only then did I know that he used his identity as a human resources manager to hire people for personal gain, and he also used bribery as a matchmaker. It's not just Zhou Liang who was bribed. The compensation alone can drain the Dong family's wealth, and they may even face jail time. Zhou Liang was also kicked out as a matter of course. Except for his qualification as a supplier, the blame is mainly on the Dong family, and the foundation of his business has not been affected. The Dong family returned to the Zhou family in shame to take care of the pregnancy, but I unexpectedly received an admission notice from He Yanlin. In order to express his apology for his misunderstanding of me, he took the initiative to increase my monthly salary by 10,000, so my current income is 60,000 a month, but at this time I hesitated. Can I really do well with such a thoughtful employer? But this old fox took the initiative to promote himself. The salary I give you may not be the highest, but the interpersonal relationships in my family are definitely the simplest you can find. This I really could not refuse. For a rookie like me in the industry, a single-parent family like He Yanling is definitely the best target for service. And I certainly did not disappoint He Yanlin. My ability to know the ins and outs of the family, as well as my motivated and positive attitude, reassured him and we had a pleasant cooperation. I smiled and met my ex-husband's family again. It was the security guard of the He family's villa area, who informed me that a family was outside making a fuss and wanted to see me. I was glad that I chose He Yanlin as the target of service. He was at work during the day and Tian was at school. I delivered lunch to him at noon. I could arrange the afternoon time flexibly so I could meet the Zhou family. I specially put on brand name clothes and shoes, and carried an LV bag. Now I have no shortage of money to spend. Since I was in charge of all the affairs of the He family, I joined the homeowners committee and got to know many wives and their aunts. With the resources, I successfully introduced several business deals, and then used the money from the divorce to invest in a small housekeeping company. Now many of the villas in this complex are my clients. I have not hidden these from He Yanlin, and he also supports my own entrepreneurship as long as it does not affect my work. As early as after the 3-month probation period, Tian's academic performance improved significantly, so he took the initiative to modify the contract and changed my service period to 10 years. He was not afraid that I would run away. This relationship of mutual trust also made me very happy and hardworking. As soon as I got outside the door, the security captain immediately came to greet me. Miss Jiang, someone claimed to be you, son. I insisted on coming in to find you. I apologized and walked towards the Zhou family. Zhou Liang came towards me enthusiastically. My wife looked at me and hesitated to change her words. I sneered and said, "You are not awake yet." He smiled hypocritically and pushed my son. Xiaojun called me mom. My son came up hesitantly with disbelief in his eyes. "You are really my mother." I looked at my son. He was fatter and had dark circles under his eyes. His face was greasy, as if he hadn't washed his clothes for a few days. He was also wrinkled and looked listless. I didn't say anything, so he frowned. "Aren't you a nanny for rich people?" I corrected him to a senior housekeeper. "You are older now. You should broaden your horizons and keep up with the times." Dong Jia touched her pregnant belly and said sourly, "Big sister, I heard that you make 60,000 yuan a month now, which is higher than many executive salaries." Chun Ferong sucked in a breath of cold air and raised his voice. 60,000 yuan. At this time the security captain said to Dong Jia, "You look 10 years older than Miss Jiang. How can you call me big sister?" I chuckled. Dong Jia touched his face and looked at me. I dared to be angry but not to speak. Without the aura of an executive and without savings, he had long lost the qualifications to be arrogant. Chun Ferong's eyes widened and she rushed forward screaming, "You make 60,000 yuan a month, but you only give us 1,000 yuan in child support. How can you at least give us 50,000 yuan? It's the most you can leave for a woman like you, 10,000 yuan at most." That matter-of-fact attitude made me laugh out loud. It was the first time I laughed. I know. The mother-in-law who has suppressed me for more than 10 years turns out to be so ignorant and greedy in her bones. You don't think that just because I was your daughter-in-law and you briefly controlled me, you can control my life, right? He was choked by me, his eyes rolled, and he pulled my son and said arrogantly, "And there is Xiaojun. Even if you are divorced, you are Xiaojun's mother. Who else should you give the money to if not your son?" I looked at my son with a smile. Although he despised me, he also knew the difference between beauty and ugliness, and didn't dare to look directly at me. I even shrank a little and hid behind Chen Feilong. Then I whispered, "Give the money to Grandma for safekeeping, and I will recognize you in the future." I said coldly, "No need, I'm not your mother anymore." He was stunned and snorted in shame and anger, and he actually scolded you so arrogantly. "What? A nanny who earns 60,000 yuan a month, you treat others as fools. You are being kept by someone, right? I don't want to use your dirty money. This child is really hopeless." Zhou Liang touched his nose and said flatteringly, "Aunt Ning, don't think too much. Xiao Jun is secretly praising your beauty. I didn't know you were so powerful before. I'm too lazy to argue with them. The money I earn has nothing to do with you. The divorce agreement states that I am not allowed to visit you. Don't threaten me with Xiao Jun." She warned Zhou Liang again, "And don't come to me to disgust me. Wasn't the slap in the car last time painful enough?" Dong Jia's face changed and she grabbed Zhou Liang's ear. "What do you mean? Seeing that your ex-wife is rich and beautiful, you regret that you made me lose my job. Want to abandon me?" "No way," Zhou Liang explained quickly. Chen Feirong saw that I had no room for negotiation, so he pulled my son in front of me and pushed him away. "If you don't give me money, take Xiao Jun away. Don't even think about living a good life alone. We don't care. This is cheating me." I looked at Zhou Jun with amusement. "How come you guys had discussed this?" His face looked ugly, his eyes rolled around a few times, and suddenly he held my hand and started crying. "Mom, your dad and Grandma don't love me at all. We only like the little brother in Aunt Dong's belly and wait for him. I will definitely have a hard time after I give birth to him." I stared at him silently and watched him act quietly. He wiped his tears fiercely, pointed at Dong Jia and said sternly, "Mom, he is a bad woman. He despised me behind the backs of Grandma and Dad, and scolded me for only giving his own daughter all the delicious food. He also secretly gave his daughter pocket money. I have a miserable life at home. Zhou Jun, you have changed." I looked at him with amusement. He looked at me with a confused face. He has become good at acting, but I still prefer the strong-willed look before. "Don't let me look down on you." After being exposed by me, his face turned red and he loosened his hand, but he still shouted unwillingly, "Mom, what are you talking about?" I didn't understand. I was too lazy to pay attention to him and turned to the security captain and said, "Call the police, they are here to blackmail me." I warned them coldly, "Don't threaten me with Zhou Jun again. If you force me again, I will let Zhou Liang's small company couldn't run." Zhou Liang suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. "The Dong family's affairs were your fault." I smiled contemptuously. "He has a lot of loopholes. Does he need me to make trouble?" "Zhou Liang, you think you can be so clean?" He pointed at me with gritted teeth. "Jiangyi, you are great. Let's see how long you can be so proud." Seeing that the security captain has called the police, he quickly took his family away. Zhou Jun didn't achieve his goal and I poked his face, suddenly rushed over and pushed me hard. "You vicious woman, go to hell. I really don't recognize you. I couldn't ask for it. She's just a lousy babysitter, not even worthy of carrying Dad's shoes. What's the big deal about a few lousy bucks?" I was so disgusted that I didn't notice it for a moment, and my high heels twisted and hit my ankle. I felt a sharp pain, but I gritted my teeth and endured it, saying heartlessly, "As long as you don't come close, you won't see me." The family left angrily. Although I had decided to give up my son long ago, I realized today that he was the one who was poisoned the most in the family. He had been influenced by him since he was a child, and his dislike for me was engraved in his bones. His crying just now was just because he thought it was profitable. When he saw that he was found out, he changed his face. These insults were his true words. I can only say that Chen Feilong and Zhou Liang's education since childhood was too successful. However, his accusations against the Dong family should not be lies. I am waiting for the day when this second marriage and complicated family conflicts will completely erupt. Yanling came back and heard about this. She pondered for a while and asked me if I could teach Zhou Liang a lesson. He is a big boss in the circle, occupying the top of the food chain and a big client. As long as he has a word in the industry, Zhou Liang, a second or third tier distributor, will definitely not survive. I shook my head and forgot it. After all, he is the father of the child. What's more, if I really ruin him, I will have to take over Zhou Jun's hot potato. I'm not that stupid. He nodded, squatted down and wanted to lift my trouser leg. "How is the injury? Do you want to call the family doctor to take a look?" I immediately shrank my feet and blushed and quickly said that it was okay. The child's hands were weak and it wouldn't affect him. Tian clapped her hands and laughed at the side. "Dad likes Jiangyi so much." I scolded him and quickly changed the subject. "I was liked by He Yanlin, so forget it. This old fox." After this battle, the Zhou family was quiet for a while. I accompanied Tian on a trip abroad during the summer vacation. I was on vacation, and when I came back I heard a sensational piece of news. The Dong family had a miscarriage, Zhou Jun was suspended from school and sent to a juvenile detention center, and Zhou Liang's business was also retaliated by the Dong family, so he couldn't continue. The family is now living off their savings, and there is chaos every day. The Dong family has no choice but to ask He Yanling to go back to the company. Then I learned the whole story. It turned out that as her belly got bigger and bigger, she didn't care about her son Zhou Jun as much as before, and tried to please him. My daughter and Zhou Jun quarreled because of games, and he was in the middle so he couldn't please both sides. The family was in chaos. Chen Feirong and Zhou Yang's solution was to go out and hide away. No one was watching the Dong family. He favored his own daughter, which made Zhou Jun more dissatisfied. The fuse of the incident was the family's financial difficulties. The Dong family did not meet Zhou Jun's request to order takeout and buy skin. He wanted to retaliate in anger. That day, Dong Jia went to the hospital for a prenatal checkup, and actually bullied Dong Jia's daughter. Dong Jia came back furious and wrestled with Zhou Jun. Zhou Jun had long hated this brother, who had not yet been born but competed with him for favor, so he deliberately kicked Dong Jia's stomach to cause her miscarriage. Chun Feilong and Zhou Liang hurried back to clean up the mess. Dong Jia was not only without his son and his daughter crying and wanting to run away from home, he was furious and had to call the police to arrest Zhou Jun. His youngest son was already gone, so Zhou Liang of course stood on Zhou Jun's side and threatened that if Dong Jia called the police, he would divorce her. The couple, who had done everything they could to stay together, had completely fallen out and become enemies. Dong Jia fought tooth and nail and sent Zhou Jun to a juvenile detention center as she wished. He gritted his teeth and said hatefully that he had ruined my daughter's life, and he would also have a criminal record for life. He Yanling, taking into account that he was a veteran of the company after all and his daughter's experience, introduced him to I applied for a job as an ordinary clerk, but he turned around and glared at me fiercely. It was all your fault, Jiang Ningyi. If you had taken Zhou Jun away, Li Yang and I wouldn't be like this, and my daughter wouldn't be bullied. You cruel mother, why do you live a glamorous life now? It's all your fault that your son committed a crime. He roared heartbreakingly. Are you satisfied with this ending? Although I was shocked, what qualifications did the Dong family have to blame me? Zhou Jun's crime has its own law to punish, but I look down on you, he said contemptuously. You wanted to marry? Zhou Liang showed I want your daughter to please their family. Especially Zhou Jun. Young boys and girls live under the same roof, and they are in a restless adolescence. As a mother, have you ever thought about protecting your daughter? I feel sad for your daughter. He staggered when I said that. I stepped forward and asked me aggressively, why should I be played around by you? I cleared the obstacles for you and let you live a comfortable life. He stared at me in horror, and suddenly he looked like a thief who was caught. His face was blue and red. He Yanling had been watching from the sidelines. At this time a flash of disappointment flashed in her eyes and she shook her head. All this in the Dong family, you deserve it. You still think it's someone else's fault. I have to say that your character is questionable. He wanted to withdraw the recommendation immediately, but I shook my head and said, never mind, just consider it as atonement for my son. No matter how miserable the Dong family is, I don't sympathize with them. It's just that he's divorced and unemployed. What about his daughter? I don't want you to be fake and kind. The Dong family showed no remorse and glared at me resentfully and left in embarrassment. I sat quietly in the room for a long time until He Yanling knocked on the door and came in. I'm worried about your son, he asked with concern. I smiled at him absent-mindedly and shook my head. No, I even feel. This ending is pretty good. He raised his eyebrows in surprise. I don't care what he thinks of me. To be frank, if I fight for custody, I think my ending today will be more miserable than Dong Jia. At least he is still alive. He Yanlin looked at me for a while. Xiao Yu sat next to me. You are too pessimistic. He is still a child after all. I shook my head and stopped talking. He suddenly pressed my head to his shoulder. His voice was low and hoarse. I don't mind lending you my shoulder to lean on. I didn't refuse, but I said that marriage is terrible. I'm so glad I escaped. He Yanling laughed. The two of us are old fox. It's really hard to take a step forward, right? I'm flattered to say that I've been recognized by an old fox like you. In terms of feelings, I'm at most a panicked little fox like a frightened bird. For so long, I've seen He Yanling's affection for me, her tolerance and consideration, and her constant little temptations, but I've been hesitating and refusing. As she said, it's really hard for our relationship to move forward, so forget it. Now I have my own career, and if it doesn't work out, I'll just pay the huge penalty and leave. Emotionally, I went to the juvenile detention center to see Zhou Jun. He had lost a lot of weight, and his expression was less energetic and more decadent. He looked dazed, with faint scars on the corners of his mouth and arms, showing that he had suffered a lot from the society. When he saw me, he couldn't help but approach me, with tears and ecstasy in his eyes. When his hand was about to touch me, he timidly shrank back. I looked at him indifferently. Although pitiful, his face was much more pleasing to the eye than before. He called out softly, looking particularly embarrassed and uneasy, like a stray puppy. I waited for the master with great difficulty, but was afraid of being despised. I was wrong, you can scold me. He lowered his head deeply, twisting his hands hard. I felt no ripples in my heart and said lightly, I won't scold you and I don't care if you are not worth it. His tears flowed instantly. Mom, I really know I was wrong. Today I know that only you love me the most. It's Grandma and Dad's fault. They always say bad things about you in front of me. I didn't want to leave your mother. I chuckled. He raised his tearful eyes and looked at me puzzledly, and I lost the tears of laughter. Zhou Jun, it's true that whoever gives you milk is your mother. Although your father is a scumbag, but he fought against the Dong family for you. I shook my head in disappointment. I have to admit that my son was born with a heart of a wolf and a lung of a dog. I should reform him. I turned and left without any reluctance. The sun was shining outside. He Yanling's tall figure leaned against the car door. When she saw me coming out, she stretched out her hands to me. I ran towards her briskly. This ending can comfort Jiang Ningyi, who died unjustly in his previous life. I broke free from the rules and regulations that restricted me for half my life. Today's Jiang Ningyi is not afraid of the future. The full text is over.